I was nervous at first, a little scared.
I was extremely scared because the thought of social services in my life with my son and just being judged about what I was doing and that was possibly putting him at risk.
Because I was upset, I was frustrated. I felt I was being wrongfully done.
We are producing this video to dispel the myths of child welfare. We would like the families to feel a lot more comfortable when child welfare gets involved in their lives and not have to be so afraid.
Exactly. It's truly our mission as child welfare to meet with the family, engage with the family, involve them in their own service planning to help keep their families safe.
A family comes to the attention of child welfare usually through a phone call. However, it can be through an email or a walk-in, and usually it's somebody that the family knows. So it could be somebody from the school, a doctor, a neighbor, a family member, and these are what we call referrals.
So what was it like having me come to your house?
I was nervous at first, a little scared. Every time you hear social services was called on you, the first thing you think is, they're going to take my kids away. And you wonder who made the call and what was said, and so you're kind of at odds and you don't feel real comfortable at first.
When reviewing these referrals, there are many things to consider, some of which are outlined in our Colorado state statute. And those outline really the definitions for child abuse and neglect and for the services that we can provide to families.
Tamara, let's talk a little bit about how we know how quickly we need to respond to a family and what that initial contact looks like.
Yeah, it's really important. We decide how quickly to respond to reports of concerns just based on what the concern is. If it's something where we feel the child is at immediate danger of harm, then it's something that's assigned quickly. Another factor that depends on a case-by-case basis is how we initiate contact with the family. Sometimes we initiate contact through a phone call, and other times we may make an unannounced visit. This again, it is determined by what exactly we're concerned about. Whenever I make initial contact with family, I always let them know that we received a report of concern regarding their child's safety, and my job is to meet them and to talk to them to see if their kids are safe. What do you usually do when you make first contact with family?
That's the same thing I try to do is make a phone call and really be pretty clear with the family about, here's our concern, here's my role, here's what I need to understand about your family, and as well as talking with them about their response times and about, how they came into our system, because sometimes families have a lot of questions about how on earth did I get here? And I think until you kind of are able to answer those questions for them, there can be some resistance or some questions or some fears or apprehension about social services coming to my house and seeing my kid and talking to me and talking to my kid. But I feel like really once you address those worries with families and they understand really what our role is, they're willing to engage with us.
I agree. I definitely think that the first natural response that I hear from people is fear. What does this mean? What is this going to look like? Children are so important to families, and families are already doing things to keep their kids safe. So fear is definitely something that is a constant.
I also try and ask families usually when I make that first call is, I'm calling you, this is scary. What's going on in your head? What are you worried about? What is your perception of me? And then let me explain that role for, just to address the fear. So Melinda, what did you think was going to happen that first time we met?
I thought that Javion was going to get taken from me. honestly, I thought he was going to get taken because of what I was doing. I was scared. I was just going, I don't know, there's just all these thoughts were just going through my head, like, how did you get this information? Where did you get it from? Why are you calling me? Why is this any of your business? Why do you care? And I was just, I don't know, it was just scary at first.
So when I was coming to meet with you, my goal was more to assess the safety and assess kind of how things were going for Javion and what that looked like. When we finally met, I felt like we had some good conversations about that stuff. Did you feel like you were able to kind of engage in those conversations, or anything happened to help you be able to have those conversations with me?
At first, I was a little hesitant. I didn't know whether or not if I should just come out and tell you the truth right away, or if I should, you know, kind of beat around the bush and maybe blow you guys off and maybe you guys will disappear. But then I came to realize that I did need help and I wanted help. So.
And there kind of was some of that beating around the bush, and you eventually were able to talk more about what was going on. What was it that helped you kind of get to that place of really being able to talk about how significant the issues were?
Probably realizing how serious it could have gotten. The possibility of him being taken from me. Me wanting help for myself, not help for me, but help for my son. So that's why I decided to, tell you the truth and come out and tell you what was really going on and how I felt and stuff like that.
The positive side of mine is that when I focused up and backed out and put my guards down against them, I seen more and more things that was in the inside of me to where it said, okay, I got to do this because it's me, it's not them. They came and took my child for a reason. So what I got positive out of it is that it helped change my life, first of all. It helped me focus up and say, okay, I don't want my son to go through this. I don't want him to be like me when he gets older. So it taught me how to mature. It matured me a whole lot. Taught me how to be a responsible parent. Taught me how to, look at different perspectives of people's lives and say, hey, these are children that we're talking about. We got to do something to change the future. In order to change the future, we have to be leaders and teach them right from wrong. Rather than just teaching them wrong, we got to teach them the good and the bad. So.
Tamara, what would you say families need to know about safety and risk, and how do you help them understand what's involved in those assessments?
That's a good question. I think that families should know that our job isn't to determine if something's right or wrong or judge where they are, where we think they should be. They should know it's about being open and honest so that we can get, all the information to see if they need help keeping their children safe. That's really all it's about, and that's what I explained to my family. Is my families are, one, I want to figure out, do you think your kids are safe, and what are you already doing to support their safety, and is there something that I need to do or I need to help figure out so that we can make sure that your kids are safe. So really the safety and the risk assessment are about just the families identifying what's going on and how, most importantly, how it's affecting their children, and just asking questions so I can get a good understanding of that.
I feel like too, I like to explain to them what the assessments are so that when I'm asking certain questions about, homelessness or DV or past history of abuse for them, I feel like sometimes they feel like those questions maybe come out of left field. And so I feel like setting it up for them and kind of the way you described helps them understand why we're asking some of the questions that we do, versus us just kind of being nosy and want to be up all in their business, So I feel like laying it out there. I've had a couple times even where I've taken the tool and gone through it with the family. And I think that they really felt like, oh, okay, this is what you want to understand. And I feel like the more they understand about why we're asking those questions, the more willing they are to respond to them open and honestly.
I completely agree. I also think it's important for families to know that there's two things that we're looking at. One being safety, and the second thing being risk. The difference is safety is what's happening in the moment. Is there something where I think, if I leave the house that this kid's gonna be hurt, that something bad is gonna happen, and soon, and possibly at any moment. The second thing that we look at is risk. And risk is more about what's happening overall, and are people, is something happening within the family that makes abuse or neglect more likely to happen in the future?
Oftentimes there are no safety concerns identified, and usually what we identify are risk concerns. And that's where then we can offer services to families and ask for them to work with us in cooperation to meet their needs, for them to receive community referrals or get their needs met in other ways.
So I feel like a lot of times we know what the resources are, and we can either just give the family a piece of paper that has these resources on them, or we can actually sit with the family and work with them on connecting with those resources. Whenever we make that personal connection with the resources in the community, I feel like the family receives much better service, to be honest, a lot of the services available in the community can be really difficult to access, difficult to navigate. Even myself as a worker, sometimes I have difficulty navigating. So I think when we're able to kind of sit with the family and work them through the navigation of those processes, they receive much better services. And whatever the provider is able to tell us, maybe I'm not right for you, maybe there's this other agency out there that's better for you. So I think really actively engaging in that process of getting services to the family has been a huge positive change that I've seen.
When I'm working with families now, the advice that I would give them is to be themselves and to be honest with themselves and with the people that they're working with, their caseworkers, the judges, the guardian ad litems, whoever they may come in contact with. To not be afraid of losing their children because they have a voice. A lot of times when you get involved with child welfare, they have a lot of stuff that they would like for you to do. And if you become too overwhelmed with it, tell them that you just don't feel like you can do it. They won't take your children just because you're saying no. They want to work with you and they want what's best for you and your children.
If we do identify safety concerns through our assessment and working with the family, certainly we would want to look for strengths and protective capacities within the family and their surrounding supports in order to keep the children in the home and continue to work with the family. However, in very extreme cases, when we are not able to control for the safety of the child, we may need to remove the child. But that is in rare circumstances, and we always look to place kids with their family first. In the extreme case where we do need to remove the child from the home, typically county departments would call their county judge or magistrate and ask for either a court hold, or they would call their local law enforcement and ask for a police hold. This is what gives us the authority to remove children from their home and place them somewhere safely. It's important for families and caseworkers to stay in contact with each other when children have been removed so that we can safely transition kids into a temporary placement, as well as then transition them back home, and everyone can work together in order to meet the needs of the children. If your children have been removed, certainly we want to work with you. And we realize that this is one of the hardest things you'll ever go through, of having your children removed. So it's important that you advocate for yourself and what it is that you believe that you can do in order to alleviate those safety concerns that initially got us involved with you and your family. We're willing to work with you, and sometimes we need help with knowing what it is specifically you need from us in order to help with the safety concerns and to get your children back in your home. So please consider your caseworker an advocate for safety for your children and work with them to ensure that your children are taken care of when they're out of the home and that they're quickly returned home to you in a safe environment.
Well, workers cannot remove your children without an order from the judge. which most people don't realize. They think that the caseworkers have all the power and that they can just walk into the home off of their own beliefs and their own feelings and take your children away from you. And it doesn't work like that. I would urge for parents to be honest with the caseworker about their needs and what's been going on in their home.
For me, I feel like the most important ways that families can advocate for themselves is having their supports present. If they have a grandma or a sister or a neighbor or someone who is a support to them, those people being present when we do the family meetings is really helpful, as well as being honest about their fears and their worries and what's holding them back from engaging with us, and really just the honesty. I feel like we try really hard to be as transparent as we can, and the more transparent the family can be about their worries, if we hear it from them, it's a lot easier to address than it is if we're hearing it from other referrals and then we have to go back out and kind of readdress things. I feel like the more honest and open they can be about whatever it is they're worried about, the better we can help and engage them in some services and some support to kind of lessen their worries and their fears for their family.
The caseworkers really care. They really want to get to know your family, and they want to get to know you. They want to help you. They want you to learn how to help yourself and your children when they're not involved in your life anymore. And so hopefully they won't have to come back into your life. We hope that you found this video useful.
And if you need any additional information, please feel free to contact your caseworker, county department, or the Colorado Department of Human Services.
And we thank you for watching.